What if the heaviness in your chest, the numbness in your days, the tears you hide when no one is watching, are not signs of your failure, but signals from the soul asking you to stop and listen? If you feel like the world no longer makes sense, if joy feels distant, and every morning feels heavy like a stone on your chest, you're not broken. You're being asked to descend. You may be awakening, not in fireworks and joy, but in the quiet crumbling of everything you once believed would make you whole. This isn't the end of your story. It's the first honest page. The first time your soul is louder than your survival mask. And I want to tell you, not as someone above you but beside you, that this path you're on is not madness. It's a return to the truth that's been waiting inside you all along. So stay with me, just breathe, let the noise soften, let the light in. There is nothing wrong with you. There is only something deep, trying to be born. Reframing depression. A soul's cry, not a mental illness. Depression, as Jung saw it, is not pathology. It is not simply a broken mind or a chemical imbalance to be fixed. It is a descent, a journey inward, a deliberate crossing into the dark depths of your soul where hidden truths wait in silence. Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. This means awakening to yourself. Truly knowing who you are beneath the surface requires walking through suffering, embracing the discomfort that your mind fears. While psychiatry often focuses on controlling symptoms, prescribing medicines to silence the noise and numb the ache, Jung chose to listen deeply to what the pain itself was trying to say. The message beneath the suffering that whispers of transformation. What you're feeling isn't failure or weakness. It's a threshold, a sacred doorway where your old identity fades and the soul calls you to step through into something unknown but profoundly real. This crossing is not easy, and it's not meant to be. It is the pain of birth, the ache before dawn, a necessary unraveling of everything that no longer serves you so the true self can be born. You are not lost. You are awakening. The shadows you see around you are part of the soul's great conversation with itself. Not a sign of failure, but the language of becoming whole. When your mind screams in despair, listen gently. There is wisdom in the darkness. Your suffering is not a disease to hide, but a cry for the soul to be heard and understood. The storytelling. The person in the dark room. There was once a man, ordinary in every way, with a steady job that paid the bills and a loving family that waited for him each evening. Their smiles a warm light at the end of his day. Yet one morning something inside shifted. Life began to feel hollow, like the colors had faded from his world. The laughter that once bubbled freely from his lips slowly stopped. The joy that filled his heart seemed to leak away into silence. He stopped going out, stopped answering calls, and eventually, he sat alone in a dark room for days that turned into weeks, wrapped in a quiet heaviness that no one could see. Time lost meaning for him there, as if the hours folded in on themselves. The outside world became a distant echo, and inside, a storm raged in silence. Yet, in that stillness, that profound solitude, something subtle began to stir. He heard, almost like a faint breath, a soft whisper from deep within himself, saying, "I've waited for you." That whisper was not madness, nor the crack of despair fracturing his mind. It was the soul, patient, tender, and ancient, finally being heard. The voice of his true self reaching through the fog of suffering to remind him. He was not alone, and this darkness was not the end, but the beginning of a new knowing. In that moment, everything changed. The dark room became a sacred space, a quiet womb where transformation was quietly unfolding. The man began to see the darkness not as a prison, but as the sacred ground where his soul could be reborn. Slowly, patiently, with all the tenderness that healing requires. This story is not unique. It is the story whispered in the hearts of many who suffer silently. The darkness you feel may be heavy, but within it lies a sacred invitation, an ancient call from your soul to listen, to awaken, and to return home to yourself. Jung's Red Book, Dialogues with the Inner World. When Carl Jung faced the deepest shadows of his own soul, when the world outside seemed fragile and the inner storms raged loudest, he did not run away or seek refuge in distraction. Instead, he chose to journey inward, to enter the dark cave of his own psyche and face what lay hidden there. He wrote this journey down not as a clinical report but as a living dialogue. Raw, vivid, and mysterious. This became what we now call the Red Book, a sacred record of his descent into the depths where the soul speaks most clearly. In this inner world, Jung met figures who were neither hallucinations nor mere fantasies. They were symbols, profound archetypes emerging from the collective unconscious, each carrying a message, a part of himself trying to be seen and heard. Among them was Philemon, an old wise man with eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of eternity, emerging slowly from the deep shadows like a guiding spirit. Alongside Philemon stood the Red One, a wild, untamed presence. Fierce, unsettling, yet strangely vital. These inner figures spoke in riddles and stories, challenging Jung to listen deeply, to question everything, and to surrender to the mystery unfolding within. Their voices echoed with the wisdom of ages, reminding him that transformation comes through dialogue. Not with others, but with the hidden parts of ourselves. What Jung teaches us through the Red Book is that our inner world is alive, rich, and deeply symbolic. It invites us into a sacred conversation where pain, fear, and confusion are not enemies to be defeated, but messengers to be understood. In this dialogue, healing is born. A healing that is not quick or easy, but profound and lasting. When we engage with our inner figures, our fears and desires, our shadows and light, we begin to remember who we truly are beneath the surface noise of life. We start to see that the darkness within is not emptiness but fullness, a space waiting to reveal the sacred truth of our being. The in-between state, not lost but transforming. I want you to hold gently this truth. You are standing in a sacred space that is neither here nor there. A place that feels heavy with uncertainty because you are no longer who you once were, yet the person you are becoming has not fully emerged. It is the mysterious in-between, the threshold where transformation quietly unfolds in the silence beneath the chaos. Imagine the caterpillar, wrapped in the dark, still cocoon. In that silence and seeming emptiness, it dissolves. Its old form breaking down, unmaking itself layer by layer, so it can one day burst forth, wings unfurled, as a butterfly. This is the process you are in right now. The darkness is not a void. It is the womb of your becoming, tender and alive with possibility. You might feel like nothing matters, like everything you held on to has lost its meaning or shape. That feeling is real and valid. The old life, with its familiar stories and roles, no longer fits you like a comfortable coat. But you haven't yet found the new garment to wear. It is okay to rest in this discomfort, because it is the sacred space where the new you is being woven together, thread by thread. You are not lost, even if it feels that way. You are not broken, even if the pieces seem scattered. You are transforming. Quietly, slowly, beautifully. This in-between state may feel like a wilderness, but it is also fertile ground. Here, the soul is softening, the old identity dissolves, and the seed of your true self begins to grow. So, I invite you to breathe into this time, to welcome the unknown with gentle curiosity rather than fear, to see the darkness not as your enemy, but as the cocoon's sacred shadow, holding space for the miracle that is quietly taking place inside you. Spiritual crisis is a calling, the dark night of the soul. I have come to understand that what you are walking through, the heaviness, the loneliness, the profound uncertainty, is part of an ancient, sacred journey known in many spiritual traditions as the dark night of the soul. This is not a curse or a punishment, but a mysterious descent into the depths where everything false is stripped away, where the ego's masks fall, leaving you raw and open, so that something authentic, something profoundly real, can be born from the silence and the shadow. It is so important to remember that the pain you feel, the ache that grips you tightly, is not because you are weak or broken, but because something deeper, something more alive than ever before, is pushing its way up through the cracks of your being. It is a powerful invitation to awaken, a call from your soul to rise beyond what has limited you. In the wisdom of Buddhism, this suffering is never punishment. It is a doorway, a threshold that leads toward awakening. When we suffer, it is like the lotus flower pushing through the mud, an essential part of the path toward blooming fully into our true nature. The darkness is not our enemy. It is a sacred midwife, assisting in the birth of a new self. This spiritual crisis you are living through, this dark night, is a calling to go deeper, to surrender the old stories, the attachments, the illusions of control, so that you may touch the vast, boundless presence that has always been here beneath it all. Though it may feel like falling, you are in truth being held and carried by the unseen arms of grace. Let this be your sacred reminder. The darkness you face is the path to your deepest light. It is a passage through which you are invited to meet yourself fully, beyond fear, beyond judgment, beyond the masks you wear, and in doing so, to find the freedom and peace that have been waiting quietly within you all along. Building a new inner life, from collapse to creation. What do you do when everything you thought was stable, everything you believed yourself to be, crumbles beneath your feet? This moment, raw and disorienting, is not just an end but the sacred ground from which a new inner life can emerge. It's an invitation to turn inward, to listen deeply to the whispers of your soul, even when they are cloaked in pain. In the silence that follows collapse, you might try something simple yet profound. Journaling, not to organize your thoughts, but to hold a dialogue with your soul. Write as if your deepest self is answering you, without judgment, without rush. Like Jung did, allow your inner voices to flow onto the page, revealing truths you may have hidden even from yourself. Sitting in quiet stillness, you can learn to welcome your pain rather than fight it. Let the feelings rise and speak their story, without needing to fix or escape. This act of listening, of allowing, is itself a kind of healing. It teaches us patience, compassion, and the courage to simply be with what is, trusting that transformation happens in its own time. You might ask yourself gently, what is it I can no longer pretend to be? The masks we wear, the roles we play sometimes become cages. Naming what no longer fits is an act of courage that opens space for authenticity to grow. It's the beginning of freeing yourself from old stories that no longer serve you. Healing is not about fixing broken pieces to look whole again. It is about allowing the cracks to be there, letting the light in, and trusting the slow, mysterious process of becoming. From the ashes of what was, a new creation is waiting for you to step into the unknown with gentle love and patient faith. Reclaiming personal truth, a new moral code. There comes a sacred moment in this journey when you are invited to step away from the moral codes and rules handed down by society, away from the voices that echo expectations not your own. This is the time to reclaim a new moral code, one not borrowed, but born quietly and authentically from the depths of your own soul. When the soul withdraws into silence, it is often because it can no longer tolerate the weight of falseness, the heavy burden of living behind masks that dim its light. It's a protective retreat, a call to honor what is real and alive within you, even if it means standing alone. This process is not about grand gestures or sudden revolutions. It begins with small, steady acts of saying no. No to what drains your energy, no to what diminishes your spirit, no to the voices that ask you to shrink or conform. These no's are sacred boundaries, a gentle reclaiming of your inner space. And just as important, it is about saying yes to what resonates as true, even in the smallest ways. Saying yes to a moment of stillness, to a word spoken with kindness, to a choice that honors your deepest self. These yes plant seeds of authenticity that grow silently, yet powerfully, inside. This new moral code is not fixed or rigid. It is fluid, responsive, and deeply personal. It invites you to listen again and again to your own heart's voice, to let it guide you gently but firmly, as you move forward in a life that feels more whole, more real, and more filled with quiet courage. It is important to remember, especially in moments when everything feels shattered or unclear, that you are not broken, nor are you a mistake in the great unfolding of life. You are not a malfunction. What you are experiencing is not a failure but a metamorphosis. A deep transformation, quietly and patiently shaping a new version of you beneath the surface. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," reminding us gently that awakening, growth, and true awareness almost always carry the weight of discomfort, of challenge, and sometimes of profound sorrow. This pain is not punishment. It is the necessary fire that melts away illusions and falsehoods, so that what is authentic can finally emerge. And so, I invite you to soften your heart toward this pain, not as an enemy to fight or a burden to bear, but as a sacred messenger. One that has come not to crush you, but to wake you up to the deeper currents moving through your soul, guiding you toward a life that is more truthful, more whole, and more free. This invitation is gentle but profound. To welcome your own process, to hold space for your own struggle, and to trust that beneath every shadow lies the promise of new light. You are in the midst of a sacred journey, and every step, no matter how hard, is a step toward a more awakened self. If you find yourself, even just a little, beginning to listen to the quiet voice inside, the part of you that has been waiting patiently through the noise and distraction, I invite you to reach out softly. Whisper in the comments below, "I'm listening." Let this simple phrase be a gentle step back toward yourself, a soft acknowledgement that the journey of remembering has begun. To walk this path with me and others who are also awakening, subscribe to this channel. This is not a journey about fixing what feels broken, but about peeling away the layers of forgetting, so that the true self, the soul that has always been there, can be known once again. And if you know someone who is lost in their own darkness, someone who might feel isolated or unheard, share this message with them. Let them see that they are not alone in their struggle, that there is a community waiting to hold them gently, a light ready to guide them out of the shadows.